So 2025, this has been an amazing year for digital money. We're seeing huge changes everywhere. One of the coolest things that happened was when the money bosses stepped up not once but twice. First on March 7th, then again on May 7th, they basically told banks, hey, you're allowed to work with digital money stuff. And then they said again, oh, and you can also hold and trade digital money for people too. Talk about making it super easy for banks to start using digital money. We were like, wow, this is huge, but wait, it gets even better. The bank protection people jumped on board, too, giving banks that same thumbs up. Then the big money controllers followed and did exactly the same thing. At that point, we're thinking this changes everything, right? Instead of big banks going after digital money companies or trying to shut them down or make their lives hard, they're actually getting the official okay to play together. Because let's be real, in the past, digital money was getting seriously attacked. And honestly, I think the big banks are behind a lot of it because this new technology really scared them that they're still pretty scared about it, if we're being honest. Remember Operation Choke Point 2.0? That was like a huge attack on the entire digital money world. But here's the thing. Even before that whole mess really got started, there was one company that seemed to have the biggest target painted on its back. Yep, you guessed it, Ripple. Both Ripple and XRP, along with the whole XRPL system, have been getting beaten up for ages. This whole drama started way back in 2020. And man, it just wouldn't stop. We're talking 4+ years of nonstop attacks on Ripple and XRP. But here's where it gets interesting. Even with all this recent good news for banks getting the green light on digital money, the attacks kept coming that you'd think with all the clear rules. The major changes and these huge laws getting passed, things would calm down, right? So you'd think with banks getting permission, they'd all be jumping in with both feet, right? I mean, we literally just saw Ripple ask for a banking license. Everything's supposed to be perfect and happy now. The whole world is changing. Rules are getting clearer, but nope, that's definitely not what's happening. Let me show you what's really going on. Check out this video clip from Cody Carbone. He's the boss of Digital Chamber, and he's basically calling out the big problem everyone can see that he posted this saying, hey, digital money companies are still getting kicked out of banks, and this needs to stop right now. He's giving credit to Chairman Senator Tim Scott for actually stepping up and trying to put an end to this mess. Apparently, the FIRM Act is their game plan to shut this down. And get this, we've got video from Fox Business where Chairman Senator Tim Scott is basically going to war against these wild rule makers who are using this whole reputation risk excuse to kick Americans out of the banking system. He went on Larry Kudlow's show to talk about his FIRM Act, which actually made it through the banking group and has support from both sides in the House. You got to see this clip. 100%. Listen, this is like the old-time redlining. You remember redlining? Black and white back in the day. Now, redlining is red and blue. Think about the first time we saw this. IT was the gun makers. They said, we won't give you bank accounts anymore. Oil and gas companies, we won't bank you. And then they moved to the Trumps. Melania Trump herself got kicked out of banks. Then they went to digital money, digital stuff. What do all these things have in common? A center-right way of thinking. Or these people found themselves not liked by the left. These fancy people who believe EY should decide who gets to use our money places. That's one of the reasons why I've already passed laws against banking discrimination at the Senate Banking Committee earlier this year. I know it's time to lead. I wanted to lead on this super important topic. Senator, what's in there just briefly? Because you got Mr. Trump's going to come out with a presidential order. Yes, but a law is stronger than a presidential order. A law stays even when a new president comes. Exactly. What we do is we get rid of reputation risk, which is what they're using. The money controllers had that in my speech. Yes, that was one of their weapons. So important. And it is such a big weapon they use extra strong against conservatives. What I want to do is get rid of that. Good news is I've had a lot of cooperation from the banking rule makers, the money controllers, and the bank protection people. Under President Trump's leadership, I've been able to move them in the right direction. So, I'm very thankful for the new relationship that the American people will have with the bank rule makers. Massive, massive problem. Yeah, I mean, we all know getting kicked out of banks is a massive problem, right? But here's the thing. It's not really the banks themselves that are the main problem. It's all these groups and people connected to the big banks that are causing the real headaches. We've covered this stuff tons of times before, but let's talk about people like Brad Sherman. This guy is a perfect example that he's taken serious money from major banks and banking groups and then turns around and completely trashes not just Ripple, but the entire digital money space. He's out there calling it all a big trick, saying it's just made up money. I'll never forget this video clip from I think it was 2022, maybe 2023, where he was going off about how digital money people just make money out of thin air, which is pretty funny when you think about it, because you could make the exact same argument about what the government does. But hey, when it's the U.S. government doing it, apparently that's totally different, right? And these arguments, they're completely crazy. There's literally zero good reasons behind any of it. But it doesn't matter because it's all designed to help the big banks. And guess what? These banks are some of the biggest political donors out there. The IT all comes down to one simple thing. Money talks and money controls everything. These massive banks have figured out exactly how to throw their power around and get what they want. But here's the shocking update that just came out. 42 banks are actively trying to block Ripple's banking license. Can you believe that? The BPI, that's the Bank Policy Institute, is representing these 42 major U.S. banks. And they've officially filed complaints against Ripple's banking license application. And we're not talking about some small neighborhood banks here. We're talking about the big shots. JP Morgan, Citi, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Goldman Sachs, basically the whole gang of money powerhouses. But wait, it gets worse. It's not even just the BPI getting involved in this mess. Here's what's really going on, and this is super important for everyone to understand. When you're invested in technology that could literally flip the entire money system upside down, I'm talking about completely changing how money moves around the world. These big banks are making tons of money off regular people like you and me just trying to send and receive money. The whole partial reserve banking system, it's basically one massive scam. But here's the part that really gets me. Think about these bank bosses like Jamie Dimon. These guys are super wealthy and powerful, right? But while they're living the good life, what's happening to their actual customers? There are literally countless videos online of regular people getting completely screwed over by these same banks. And don't even get me started on 2008. Remember that disaster? The biggest money crash we've ever seen. And what happened? The big banks got even bigger and even richer while everyday folks got completely wiped out. Their homes, their savings, their retirement money gone. These big banks are not our friends. They never have been and they never will be. They're not just not our friends. They're literally our enemies. They want us stuck paying these completely crazy fees every time we send or receive money. So, when a company like Ripple comes along and completely flips the script on how banking works, how money moves around the world, what do you think happens? Bingo! Massive target on their back, just like I mentioned at the start. But here's the thing that should get you really excited. Knowing that these big banks are this freaked out, this panicked, this desperate, doesn't that tell you something? You should be thinking, holy cow, I must be invested in exactly the right thing. Because if they're losing their minds this badly, just imagine how game-changing this technology really is. Nick Blackwood nailed it perfectly in a recent post. He basically said the same thing I'm telling you right now. Check this out. They want Ripple banned. Here's why that means you're right on target. And get this, now we got the ICBA jumping in the fight. That's the Independent Community Bankers of America, and they represent over 5,000 banks across the U.S. They're literally begging the money controllers to reject Ripple's trust bank charter application. So, let's break down what they're actually saying in this application. If we zoom in here, they're basically opposing Ripple Labs' bid for a national trust bank charter for what would be called Ripple National Trust Bank. Now, here's what Ripple actually does. They provide blockchain-based payments and custody services to big business customers, helping them weave blockchain tech and digital assets right into their business operations. Ripple's plan with this national trust bank, they want to use it to support their Ripple stablecoin and other payment services. We're talking about managing stablecoin reserves and handling all the trust stuff that comes with it. Their whole vision is pretty ambitious. They want to build the next evolution of global financial services and redefine how money moves in the digital economy. But here's where the opposition is coming from.